My name is Rachel Louise Kern Herbst. Kern is K-I-R-N. And I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, living in Elyria, Ohio. So I went to Cleveland, and that's where I was born. And May 24th, 1927, I had a dad and a mom and married the whole time. My dad died at 49, which was very young, or 50 years old, very young. And my mother was 96 when she died, and 1 month of 97, which I am now. So anyway, my dad came from Akron, Ohio, and then they moved up as a child because my grandfather became Quaker Oats manager up in Peterborough. So they moved there when he was very young. And so the family really was raised up there in Canada, Peterborough. And he went to Case College back in the States at Ohio. And let's see what else, Case College. Anyway, then how I met my mom was her husband, how should I say that? My mom's mom was 28 when she died. My mom's mom, my grandmother. And so she was had a brother, Robert, older, herself, younger. She was born November 20th, 1898. 1898. And that was Springfield, Ohio, where she was born. But he died very young, so I don't have as much of him. Dad just making sandboxes and different things for us as a kid, and a slide for us to go down on the ice and things in our backyard, taking the picnic table and making a slide going down. Good memories there. With Mom, we went on trips together to, all of us, Springfield, Ohio, to the farm where my grandmother lived. Not that grandmother. We called her sister, which was my great aunt. That was, we called Grandma. We were growing up, Grandma Emma. And she was a priceless one. And she lived to be 101. So, with a cane period, she flew to Michigan at 100. And to see when my mother got married again. Well, I'll go back to my mom, I guess I should. She was great. And she grew up, because she didn't have a mother, my grandfather brought in his sister with her 4 kids to their house, and she raised, her name was Mary, and she raised my mom up with the father. And so she got very spoiled by her father because she was the only girl. There was was Robert, my mom, and then Uncle Ralph. So there were 3 of them in the family. And she went to college. She went to Hollins College. He took her all kinds of trips around the countryside, and so they were very, very close. And then she went to Hollins College at 16, which is very young. And then so she went 5 years instead of 4 years. And so she could graduate. And then she married a man named Rogers, right. And the first name, Dick Rogers. And so they were married, and they had my sister Nancy. And there were 4 girls in our family with my dad and Mom. So there were 4 of them. My sister Nancy was the oldest, and she was the one that was born with that husband. So she went down to Springfield, Ohio to show Nancy off, 3 months old. And then she got a telegram when she was down there that he had died. And so she had to go all the way back to Virginia and do all that by herself, and then come back. She went back to live at her house, and which was perfect for her with my Uncle Ralph. He was alive, so he was there naturally. So anyway, that's the way that was. And my sister Nancy was the oldest. Now my dad adopted her, but I should tell you about that. My mom, when she was back in Springfield with Nancy, raising her, my Aunt Marie, which was her favorite cousin, who also went to Hollins College. Anyway, she was getting married, and so she wanted my mother to be in the wedding because they were so close. as matron of honor. And she said, no, I can't because I'm still in black. And so she didn't go in the wedding. But my father was Uncle Bill's best friend at Case College, and he was the guy, not I want to say usher, what is it? What do you call it? Best man in the wedding. So he was best man in the wedding. So that's how they met. So then my dad would go over there on weekends from Springfield, but no, it wasn't from Springfield. He went from college over anyway. They were through college. So they met that way. So they got married three years later, and that was good. That's when I came along. So then Nancy was there, so Dad adopted her. And then me, and then Sister Carrie, she was 94 now. She's 95 now, excuse me. She's 2 years younger than me. And then my sister Kitty was way down. Now Nancy just died a few years ago, and then Kitty died. The oldest and the youngest are gone. So my sister Carrie is up in Traverse City, living still. So that's good. Got one sister left. We lived in Birmingham, Michigan. Grew up in Birmingham, Michigan. I mean, we were born there in Cleveland, but we moved at a very young age. And 1929 was when we moved to Birmingham. And we lived in this last house we just had 65 years. But then Jim and I got, we went through school there, had great school life. Great. I mean, I was very happy all through school. Loved school, loved sports, loved all those things. They didn't have big sports for ladies anymore, but I was into that for baseball. And we had a couple sororities, which you don't hear about. We had 3 sororities in high school, and you don't hear about that anymore. But that was a great thing. So the sororities played games against, like baseball against each other and different things like that. We always had something going on. And I was a tomboy. And I had lots of girlfriends. Also was a diver. And we belonged to Orchard Lake Country Club at that time. So, but then the war hit. It hit a lot of people when the war hit. But that was my latter years, 16, 17, and 18, yeah. But we still were active, and we still managed to get out there. And I broke my front tooth, at Oakland Hills Country Club, doing a swan dive. Dawn called me up and said, my friend, let's go over to Oakland Hills, and she was a member. Her family was a member at that one. So I said, okay, great day. And so a few of us went over there, swim in the pool. They had a pool. Orchard Lake has just a lake. And so I wasn't used to the pools that much, but loved it. We didn't have pools in high school or anything like you have today. And so I got on the diving board, and it was the high diving board. And I went off and, swan dive. And then I went down and right into the camera. Into the pool, right on the edge there. And so I came up, and the tooth was gone. But that was it. And a miracle, I hit my head, obviously my nose and everything, but nothing happened other than that. So that was very lucky. And I was doing that because I got my sister to babysit my youngest sister, who was 10 years younger than I was. And she was young. She was just like 5 or so. And so she babysat her. And when my parents came home, and they were out of town, Dayton, Ohio, just for the weekend, they came home, and right away they'd taken me in to get the tooth thing to my dentist and fixed. And so anyway, I did hear a few things like what I shouldn't have done. I was supposed to be the babysitter. Your parents, you're just doing it for your family while they went away for the weekend. Nancy cooked for us. It worked out really well, Yeah, I got caught. Shouldn't have done it, but that's all right. It's still a cap, But the nerve's still there. And after 15 years to 97, all those years, that nerve's still alive. That's amazing. When we first came to Birmingham, we just had my family rented for a while the houses because they wanted to know where they wanted to live. And so the first house was on Woodland in Birmingham, first house in, and we have pictures of it, movies of all of that with us rolling snowballs and different things. And then we went from there to Kennesaw. I lived in Kennesaw till 3rd grade. And there were only boys there in the neighborhood. Chuck and Adams, Joe Hardy, and John Gilbert. And so those were the guys. And there weren't any little girls for me to play with. But anyway, so when I went to school there, up to 3rd grade, kindergarten, I remember that very well, sleeping on the floor there in the kindergarten and saying, do we have to take a nap? And she said, yes, you have to lay down, Rachel. So I did. And, and I can remember writing in 1st grade, my teacher, Miss Stanley, she wanted me to show the girls how to, and boys how to write. They had a thing that they went on like this on this board, and then I would fill in this and put my hand in the back. I remember that just like it was yesterday. And I always did have good penmanship. That's what we had to have at that time, You're growing up so entirely different than today. You did spelling all the time. You had spelling bees every week and things like that. You don't have that today. Recess, I love recess. We had marbles, and we'd go out there and we'd shoot marbles, and so they collect marbles. If you won the thing, then you got a marble, and then we collected like that. But mostly the boys and girls were doing that together. Oh, I went to all public schools, in Birmingham. And that's where I started off, was Adams School. And then they go up to 8th grade. Well, I only went there till 3rd grade. 4th grade, I went over to the other side of town and to Puritan. And that's the house they bought, the first house. Though they'd rented Kennesaw and the other Woodland house they'd been renting. And then we went over there and we bought it. And that was great. So then there were a lot of girls in that neighborhood. So anyway, I became pals. I had lots of girlfriends, tons of them. And we walked to school. You had to walk a mile up to Baldwin High School, and where we had 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Now, Adams School went up to 8th grade, so they came over at 9th grade. So it was the only one that did that was Corton School that went to junior high and senior high. So that's kind of big when you're a 7th grader and you've got a senior in your school, hugging at the locker rooms or something like that. Anyway, that's about it. I did sports. We had gym. I loved gym class. We kicked balls and things like that and played basketball, a lot of basketball. It was separate, and you wore gym clothes. Yeah, we had separate green outfit. Just plain shorts and top, yeah. And that was it. And actually, we had Pierce School was where all our athletics were taken, football and all the funs. And we were all into that as far as going to sports. Anyway, we went to Shane's drugstore uptown in Birmingham every weekend. Saturday when we got off, the kids would all the girls would line up going up there. That was our fun time in Birmingham. Birmingham was like 8,000 people or so, and it was so small. It was a village, and you had 5 grocery stores and 4 pharmacies, or 4 or 5 pharmacies, and it was an entirely different city than it is today. Mm-hmm. So in the summertime, we'd go to Orchard Lake and swim and stuff, and weekends when we were off, we just kind of all palled together. We had sleepovers, all a bunch of gals or something like that, and always something going on. And then our sorority had a weekly thing on Friday nights. Well, they went to the community house and had dinner, dances, which was fun. They'd pick you up and then go to the dance. Well, it's about some girls, and you had to get into it. I hate to say that, or you have to be invited, and then they blackball you if they don't want you, which isn't good. They call you up and say, "Can you come to a meeting?" And then they check you over. I didn't have that problem because my sister was in it. There were 4 of them. And so but I had friends in all of them. More friends in the Beta and the Cornet. Mine was called DBS when I was in Delta Beta Sigma. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just did things for the community and different things like that. And it just get together is the main thing. And I did work at K-Bomb, which was a store in Birmingham after school a lot, when I was up in senior high. I think most of my money went into cardigans, sweaters, and things like that. But, oh, how much money? Not a lot. Babysitting was a quarter an hour. I did babysit, and they would give you a quarter an hour. But it went up as times went up.
Yeah.
But I did that too. So we always did something, a movie. You know, we've always got something to do on the weekends. Yeah, we did go to a lot of movies, and, you know, you got 2 movies practically, and then a thing in between, cartoons. So it was good. Birmingham Theater. Yeah, you went to nice movies. I mean, they didn't have movies like today. We didn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
Right. So it was good. They were fun movies, family movies, you know, Lassie, different things like that on the screen. Okay, I was on the bicycle. I wasn't on the bicycle. I was in a cart next to the bicycle. And I stuck my fingers, and it was wintertime, or cold enough for me to have gloves on. So I had 2 gloves on. And my fingers, I just stuck my finger right in the spokes or something. Anyway, it cut the 2 fingers off here. And just the tips, and they're different. The tips are different. And shorter, so you can tell. Well, there were many, many doctors at Cleveland Hospital trying to figure out whether to let it grow like that, or do something, make it down a little like this, and not to be like this. They decided, just let it grow. Let's see if anything grows. They didn't have any nail at that time. And, I mean, he did, but they cut them off. So they went ahead and they grew 2 nails, which is amazing. And being athletic, because I did a lot of golf later years and things, that's another thing I did. So anyway, that's after I was married. So these things came on. I mean, I was so excited to have nails. So anyway, but I don't even remember that. Now, you'd think you'd remember a tragedy. I remember kindergarten and everything, but I can't remember that at all.
Okay.
I guess I was like 2.5.
Pretty
Or
little.
2 or 2.5, very young. And so they took the glove off, and out fell the tips. So that's why they rushed me to the hospital, and then it's fine. So me being the way I am, I'm glad I have fingers. I was the easy kid that way. Out of all my sisters, you know, if they didn't want to do something or something. I mean, I mowed the lawn. I did things that just with a smile, you know. My parents didn't have the problem with me that way, which is good. Nancy did the cooking if they went away or something, and I did the lawn because I like to be outside all the time, bicycling or doing something, and do the lawn and all the flower beds. You know, that was, I don't know, just different. Well, you made your bed in the morning before you went, yep, and you helped dust if they needed to. But my parents had a maid once a week, and then they had a living maid when Kitty was born, so for a while. And she lived across the street with her sister from my other friend's family. So that was during when the war started, and then that kind of had to quit. So, but she always had a cleaning lady every week. My mom did, so that helped. You know, we were fortunate enough during the war, in the 1929-30 Depression time.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have that much problem, you know, which was different. Than, a lot of people really had sad lives. They didn't have families that had the money. They lost their money and everything else. And we didn't. My mom inherited a lot of money from her father, who had a limestone, what do you call it? Limestone
Quarry.
Quarter, yeah. And in fact, I saw it in many, many years later with my mother. But anyway, so when he died, that money was all sent to my mom. And so they went through that. So then they had hard times during the war because my dad was starting a Kern Coal and Coke company, and they didn't have, everything went down money-wise. And so it was very hard during that time. I don't really have many memories of that, but I know we didn't have problems at that time. Our problems became World War II time. Well, I didn't have any brothers, so that was good, you know. And the only one I had was an uncle in Canada who was in the war. But other than that, my dad was in the war, and he would have been out of college too. So, you know, that's fine. He didn't get into the war anyway. Canned goods, as far as the Victory Garden we made, because Victory Garden is like tomatoes, and then we had 5 different cherry tree, crab apple tree, and my mom canned all that. And we would help it, and cherry tree, and we canned the cherries, the crab apples, and made jelly out of them or whatever. Oh no, it was for our family, because there were 4 girls in our family, and so, you know, yeah, and the tomatoes, they were all down in the cellar in the basement. So as long as we did our own stuff, that was good, I guess. You know, yeah, you had rationed, you know, sugar ration, paper towels, toilet paper, everything was rationed. You had this ration book that you went by, and I remember, anyway, so it gave us a lot of food, yeah. No, you just went along, you know. Life was good as far as for me, as far as I didn't have an argument in family, you know, or anything. I don't know, I just grew up like having fun. Not fun, I shouldn't say that, because you have interims when you don't. We went to my grandmother's farms and did different things like that. Then when I finished in high school, then I went to before I went to college, I went to General Motors and worked in the factory there, the factory for the war. So I'd put a thing in the motors, the motor would come down, and then I would, you know, I put the little plug in here or whatever I had to do. So I worked there until the war was getting to the end, and then I went to college. It was all in 45. I graduated in 1945. So that's when I went to college. But I also worked that winter. I mean, at the spring, summer. Yeah, and I wore my blue jeans and one of Dad's Dad's shirts. And there were 4 girls. Okay, but I was one of them that wore one. Nancy did too, my sister. We have saddle shoes and blue jeans and long Dad shirts. You can imagine my dad eventually losing his shirts off to us all. But anyway, that worked out. So that was my little outfit going off. And then I went and worked in as a secretary there just 1 month, because I was 1 month on that, or 2, and then I went to college. I was working for my money for college. Okay. Yeah, even the same with clothes. You know, I thought that helped too with my mom. My dad, they didn't have to buy clothes for me a lot, you know. During the war in high school, I did lead at the community house, the Birmingham Community House, a fashion show. And I had a uniform on, and at the microphone, and then I would introduce the people, the models, as they go across the thing. And that was during the war. A money thing for, you know, probably, I don't know who got the money, but I'm sure it was during the war, and they were trying to make money. So Diana Roosevelt.
Who's that?
And Diana is a niece of President Franklin Roosevelt. And they lived here in Birmingham. Hall Roosevelt was Eleanor Roosevelt's brother and sister. They were brother and sister. And Hall got married to Dorothy Roosevelt. And anyway, she ended up divorcing. He was an alcoholic, Hall Roosevelt. And I just finished a book on them. 6th grade is when I met Diana. So that's how old she was when they got divorced. And they lived on Charing Cross, but that doesn't really mean anything to you. So anyway, in Birmingham, and Dorothy, the mother, was a pianist. So she taught, and that's the way she made money to support her 3 kids. There was Amy, Diana, my age, and Janet was my sister Carrie's age. Yeah. Best friends all the way through school and college. Well, they didn't go to my college, but after that. Yeah. She died many years ago. Diana did, yeah. Gotcha. My friend. Yeah. So, I met Eleanor at their house, and she would have tea because Eleanor and Dorothy were sister-in-laws, and so she had tea for us when we got there. Very, very nice, but I wasn't there that long. You know, you're going in, you're meeting her, period. I mean, she's there with Dorothy, the sister-in-law. And so we were kids, then. Came to watch her for tea, and that was it. We didn't sit and have tea with them. We just ran in and out of the house, just enough to say, there she is. That was a big deal back then. Yeah, because that was a big thing for him to be, when he'd come here through on the train to try out for being president, he was like, he'd go through here and we'd all be out waving away, down at the train station. So no, my family was Republican. They weren't really Democrat, but that didn't matter, at that time. So you don't think about that. Not like today, split country. Baseball in high school, baseball all the time. And then even when I was very young on Kennesaw, we had some guys that would mow the field out, for we had a field to play on after dinner. And that's what we did then. And after dinner, even when I went over to Puritan and met all those people, girls, we'd all meet on one of the empty lots and play baseball after dinner in the summertime, all the time. Then at 12, I took some golf lessons at Orchard Lake, but I was playing tennis in those days. That they built tennis courts there for the first time at that time when I was 16. So I played a lot of tennis. Not as much golf then. I played golf once I got married and later. Always outside riding my bike. We'd ride over to Cranbrook and have lunch and pack a lunch and go over to Cranbrook. And didn't swim in their pool but one time, but that was naughty. But we didn't get caught. Swimming was big and diving in those days. And then down below our house, where the Victory Garden was a big field right behind my house. And then we walked across the street, and then down was Corton Lake, which was a big lake. Not a big lake, but a lake, perfect for swimming. I mean, not swimming, you do go swimming there, for ice skating. So we went every day after school. In the wintertime, that's where we did ice skating. And then we'd go under the viaduct and then ice skate through the little river part and come back again to the Corton Lake. But did travel a lot. It was fun. Then I'm older. I'm not as much a tomboy then. As, once you grow up, at a certain age, you became a lady. Well, we did play games, but I played bridge. A lot of bridge in high school. Oh. Yeah. And maybe on the weekends with 4 girls, and 4 of us. That was big. And we had our Christmas at home. We didn't go away or anything. In the summertime, we'd go to the farm. My grandma had a farm, a gentleman farmer. And we'd go there, have a great time. And I don't know, we spent our time Orchard Lake doing stuff like that. You didn't go out to dinner much. That was a big thing to go out to dinner. And
a treat.
Yeah, and it was a treat, right. But you had plenty going on all the time. There was no sitting around being bored. Because I wanted to learn to fly because of Amelia Earhart. And I really was fond of her. And then, I don't know what year that was that she died. Because it was such a thing in my think when she got lost and never found. And I read books about her and stuff like that. So, I just knew about it. I was very young then still. I know I was when she died. Probably a teenager. Just herself, yeah. And cool, and they couldn't find her, and then that made me want to be an airline. I really did. I really probably would have, but not. After that, forget it, I got married. No, I didn't like heights. I did not like heights. Going to see Niagara Falls, and it's like I'm going to be down in the... So, no, and we went up to the, what's the big thing in New York?
Empire State Building.
But, yeah. No, I got up to the top. That was our honeymoon. And I got up to the top of it and looking down, and I went, sorry. Then we went right back down again. I couldn't look that way. It's just like I was going to go.
No.
So, anyway. University of Michigan or U of M. Yes, I wanted to go to college. We all did, in those days, if you could or if you could afford it. My sister went ahead of me, but then the war hit, and so she was and she got not married then, but her boyfriend, who she ended up marrying, went into the service and got, was hit. I mean, he was Battle of the Bulge. So that's who she was going to marry. This takes to me to college. So then I went to college after that, and she worked at General Motors. That's how I got in that way. She did work there in their a business part of it. Oh, I would probably have been a gym teacher, geology and biology, English. I was not big on English, but Jim helped me with some of my English stuff on the letters she had to write and stuff, papers, yeah. And same old classes. I don't remember math. Wasn't big on. I loved math, but I don't remember taking too much math there. It's more English, biology. But I only went 2 years because the war hit, and then those 2 years. But when I was a freshman, brand new freshman, September still, my sister Nancy, Jim came home. That's my husband. Not at this point. Not at this point. I haven't met him. Mm-hmm. But he asked her, my sister, out because they knew each other. And Nancy was 3.5 years older than I was. And he was too. He was 5. So she had dated him before. But she had her friend. She was going to marry Bill Hutchins, and then we knew that. He's still overseas in the hospital. But so anyway, so I ended up, he said, why don't you take Rachel out? And she's up there, I'd only been there 2 days, and just take her out for a beer. Or not, I didn't drink beer, but I did not drink in high school. And so I said, anyway, that's what we did. So my sister said, go take Rachel out. So he did, because he was going to sign up for school. He had 2 years left in the school at U of M. And so he came, and I went down the elevator, and I went, ooh, first time I saw him, ooh, I was very impressed. And fell right then. But anyway, you can't do it that fast, but I did. And so we went out, and you went by taxi, to town, to Ann Arbor, and then came back home, and then that was it. Well, then he had to get out of the service, so he had to go to California. He had things to do before. And when he came back, I was naturally still there. So then we started dating, and dated for 2 years, and then I quit school. He had finished, and so I quit. We ended up getting married. So, and my sister Nancy got married the year before, and they had a big wedding. But then my dad lost his job with Kern Coal Coast, so they didn't have the money for me. So we had a family wedding, but we had a wedding. I shouldn't say family; it wasn't just family, but it was at the house instead of the country club. That type of wedding. But that doesn't make any difference. That was the way life was. Well, while he was there, he was in a fraternity. He was a beta, and I was an alpha phi. So we each were in the fraternities. And then when we were going together for almost the second year before we left, I had his pin. And then all the betas sang to you, in the window. His beta pin. He exchanged it, and then you wore it. You were engaged, kind of, but you're not engaged, but you're thinking about it. But it was a big deal. Yeah, right. I loved it. And it was fun having all those guys singing. They sing just the beta songs or something, and stuff. Just a couple things down below, just to know that they're there with you. I didn't go to dinner, no. No. Just maybe down for a beer or something like that. It wasn't a big deal. You did things in the school. There's stuff going on. Yeah, I got married to Jim Herbst, or James Herbst, Hill Herbst, really. And he was a great guy. Quiet when we were more, he's more an introvert than an extrovert. I was more an extrovert. But we hit it off beautifully and had a wonderful marriage. And I felt very fortunate, and had 5 kids. Good-looking guy, yeah, right. And just easy to get along with me, personality-wise. So that was good. And we did stuff, as you said, movies and different things. And it's hard to remember everything back then. There were so many times. Really, it was his mother handed him her diamond ring and said, because she was not married anymore. I mean, her husband had died years ago. And so that was his graduation present from college. And she said, give this to Rachel. So that was the way it went. Very, very nice. I mean, it wasn't like get down on your knees and hands and do all that. No, it wasn't that. It just kind of came along naturally, and I was very excited about it, yes. And so the way I did it was to tell my friends. I had a shower for one of my girlfriends that got married, and then in one of the boxes that I gave to her present-wise was the wedding ring in a box. And so announcing my marriage going to be engaged to be married. Yay! Well, they knew, but they were excited. It was a whole group that we ran around together so many years. Not the men, but just the women, because they all married different ones, and from Michigan State. They went to different colleges, and they married different ones. But our potluck was still our bunch of girls that were from DBS. Most of them were high school friends. All of them were, frankly. Well, there were 8 of us, and so there were 16 of us. I'm the only one, and Chuck Adams out of them all. Chuck lives in California, and I live here. Not here, but in Birmingham. And that's it. Wedding wasn't it? It was St. James Church, where I go to church. Yeah, I still do. I went to baptize there at 3 years old. Jim was, he was very happy to be married, and he just couldn't believe it. So anyway, we got married and went off to New York, and it was back at my house. And his brother stood up for him, and my sister stood up for me, and then I had 3 or 4 other gals, and then he had other guys. And then we went to Detroit for our not our honeymoon, but that night. And then he said, "You stay here, right here, and I'll get the luggage and everything. You stay by the luggage, and I'll go in and get everything organized." So I did, and out came somebody to take the luggage. I was like, "You can't have my luggage." I said, "He's in there. He's over there." And here I am with sparkly stuff on my head and everything else. It was obviously I was freshly married with a hat on and all. So anyway, he came back and I said, "They want to take my luggage." Anyway, so he said, "Well, that's all right." But I'd never been to a hotel. I mean, I didn't know that kind of stuff. I really didn't. We didn't go to hotels in those days, not like today. Wore a wedding dress for that day, and then for when I went away, it was a brown silk dress. It was good, fine. And then with a hat. Wore my sister's dress that she wore in her wedding, and then she had gotten it from her sister-in-law. So that passed down that way from the Hutchins. Yeah. New York, by train. So it took a while to get there. And then we were there 5 or 6 days in New York. And it was fun. Went to do everything. We had your food out of paid 25 cents or something and got a sandwich or something like that. Went to a bar. We went to an opera. Went to an opera.
Did you, for it to jiggle?
Huh?
25 cents in the bed too for it to jiggle?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll step up.
Yeah. And we went to opera, and then we went to a famous duck. They had duck food, Chinese food too, and it was excellent. So we went to different little things, and we were crossed over to
Statue.
Huh?
Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, Statue of Liberty. That's it. That took quite a while. So anyway, that took part of the day. So we just had a great time, and but we went to the hotel, and it was one that Jim had stayed in during the war. Well, here's a metal bed and old-fashioned stuff, and they needed to fix the place up, but that's where we went. But you're not even there, just. Married January 31st, 1948, and then that 65, well, that was 61 years we stayed married. I mean, he died after 61 years. But we had a great life, as I said. Well, okay, so our first son was James, and my dad had 4 girls, no boys. My sister had a girl first, and then no boys, and she had 2 girls. So this was my dad's first boy, and so that was exciting. And so anyway, I couldn't believe it. Well, when I got going into labor, we went to the hospital, and I was playing cribbage with my husband, Jim, and all of a sudden I said, "Oh, time!" So we left it, and I went in and I had natural childbirth, so I didn't have anything. Came back out, and then of course they took Jimmy away, and so I said, "Where's the game? Let's finish that game we were playing." So we finished our cribbage game, and then that was it. And then for 5 days you're in the hospital. That's so different than today. Boy, I'll tell you, going in and out, you're 5 days there. And I was 5 days with Rachel, too, so that's a long time. They bring the baby into you, and then I couldn't really nurse because he got a rash all over him, I got a rash all over me, so I was allergic to it. So that was the end of that, and I tried it once, but and it didn't work with Rachel either, so we forgot, so we went right to bottles. He was out waiting. Yeah, it's different today, I know, than probably, I don't know whether you do it today or not, but didn't then.
Yeah.
No. He's there,
Yeah.
but he's just not.
It was just you and nurses and doctor?
And then...
Did you have your mom there or anything?
No, well, with that, no, Mom didn't. My mom didn't go,
Yeah.
no. You told her, Jim told her. Oh, I was excited to have a boy. Yeah, for my dad more, too.
That is exciting.
Right, it was. So, yeah, he had tears, and, he was excited. Oh, no, they came to visit. Oh, yeah, my mom did. I can remember her feet going up and down I could hear her walking. She was in real estate because she was a realtor. Because after her husband died, which was my dad, so young, she had to go get to work, so that she went into real estate. She was a fabulous realtor. Rachel came next, then John came third, fourth was Chuck, and they were 5 years later. Chuck and Kitty were 5 years later, but those two kind of went together. Busy, very busy, yeah. And but I had energy in those days, and kind of still do, but I did have energy, and so I would play like a kid with them. I did things, and we played games and stuff. And today we play lots of games when we're together. I was home. I had a gal come in that would help once a week on cleaning, and then she would get to make fried chicken. She came from Pontiac. She was a great gal, and that was my day to go bowling or golfing, 9 holes, and then. I did that for a lot of years. But other than that, I was home with the kids. First place, we were in Berkeley. That's our first house, 2191 Berkeley. And we outgrew it right away. I mean, James was born, and not so long later, Rachel was. And then I got pregnant with John right away. And so there were 3. We had to move out of the house. It was only a little 2-bedroom house. It's one of the ones that got started up from the war, and built right then for all of us newly married ones. And so then we had to move, and we couldn't sell that one yet. Finally, the realtor bought that house, and because we found one in Birmingham, on Harmon Street in Birmingham, and so we went there. And then we had John there, and Chuck, 5 years later, and my husband, Jim, did the whole house over. It was like an old farmhouse, and he took all the wallpaper off and paint, wallpaper, you know, it's terrible. And so he spent a lot of time there fixing the house up. And then I got pregnant with Chuck. That was fine. Then I got pregnant with Kitty. We didn't have any room for Kitty. It was 1, 2, 3, it was 4-bedroom, but the 1 bedroom was so small you could only put 1 crib in it. You didn't, we wanted to put Joe, boy, and a girl. So anyway, we moved out to Hickory Heights in Birmingham, and that was great. Wonderful time. The kids they had lots of friends and everything. And a good school district, Bloomfield, was Bloomfield Township. 65 years. We just sold it. It was 4 bedrooms, but we did have, and 2 baths up, but we did have, it was a tri-level house. We did have a basement, or tri-level bottom floor with your rec room and then another big room. And so we made that one kind of for the boys. You know, Jim and John were down there. Ice skate, through balls. You know, baseball, we do that with the kids. Soccer, not soccer, what do you call it?
Volleyball.
Volleyball. Played volleyball. Just outside. Everything's, lots of things are outside. Inside would be games probably or something. But, you know, they've all had homework or they all had something like that. And, too, when they came home and they had their own things. I tried to raise the kids independently. Well, so I wasn't on top of them all the time, but if they needed me, they needed me, and for something, that's fine. But I did play games and did things with them all the time. But, you know, they have their own friends, too, and you want them to have them. Some of them I didn't like, and nothing I could do about it. They had to find, that's what I mean, being independent. I just let their mistakes be their mistakes and didn't kind of get into too much of that. That's needed. And consequently, they came out well, finally. That was great. I loved it. So, and they've each got their own individual personality. Some are art, some are athletic, some are this, some are that. You know, they all had an engineering mind and another. And that's so interesting. I love that. That's what I loved about my kids. Chuck's one was sports. And John he did track, and Chuck did football and baseball, and John did baseball and track more. But when they got to the senior high, some of them, I never missed a game or did anything, whatever one of them did. And then James, you didn't have sports, but he had other things. He had other interests, so that was good, you know. And we went skiing with some of the kids. They did like that. You went sledding with them when they were younger. And did things like that with them. You know, big hills. John mowed the lawn with a power mower. And so he was very good about that. And then he also had a paper route. And that's not easy, you know, for snow being up this high, you know, and you're trying to get the paper route around the free press. He did the free press. So each one had different things that they did. Well, a few little accidents and a few little things like that with a car. Yeah, you do. You have things like that. Well, James won, but Chuck ruined one.
How?
And so that was the end of that one. I was kind of an easy going lady.
If there were any issues, my father would have a stern voice.
Or be silent.
But or be silent.
Which is
and that was
scarier
even worse.
sometimes.
You're right, the silence was even worse. I'm disappointed,
Yes.
period. And it's like, you've disappointed your father, that kind of thing.
That was worse.
But I think that we all respected my mother in terms of, you know, and the last thing I think any of us wanted to do was cause any grief, intentionally, certainly.
Yeah.
I remember saying to Mom years later, like, I'm really sorry I was so rude to you and things. I don't remember that. But as a teenager, I know I was.
Yeah.
But she didn't remember. It didn't affect her to remember. But also I was thinking about when the Beatles came. And, you know, you couldn't have your hair, like, over your collar.
Oh,
You could go to
right.
school, or-
He let his hair grow down.
Yeah.
Right. Beatnik-wise.
You couldn't have your hair over your collar, and also you couldn't wear blue jeans
At school.
at school,
Yeah.
high school.
And
So
the girls, you have to kneel and your skirt has
if
to
your
hit
skirt
the
goes
ground.
if your skirt's above your knee, kneeling,
Yeah.
Mom's got to come bring some clothes for you.
Oh.
But he let his hair grow, and
When I
he
got
was sent home from school, Andover School, for that. And then I had to,
Who grew his hair out?
and yeah, you can't come back until you get your hair cut, and then you get disciplined. And then he was caught smoking in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah,
And
I
he-
got-
and he-
I get busted for smoking.
Who grew the hair out though?
James,
James.
Yeah.
and then James had smoking in the bathroom. Somebody passed it up.
I got caught smoking in high school and got kicked out the last 20 years of school. But I got to finish it was junior year.
So things like that do happen, but you know, this is growing up. That's
Yeah.
part of growing up.
We
And
all had little problems. You and Rocky over at the house. I mean, there was always little tiny things. Rachel Lynn, I think, probably you had a little trouble too. Yeah. No, you don't remember one. Okay. But in any case, yeah. But nothing consequential, I would say.
Yeah.
and Dad and I didn't argue, so that
They
much.
what?
My husband and I didn't argue that much, so that it was not that kind of a family. He was a big help, whatever. He'd read to them at night. That was when I had the 5 kids, and stuff. I'm trying to do the dishes or do something like that, or he would do the dishes and do something else. If I had the baby, I always had a baby there for a long time, so he was a helpful one. Even though he did do paper, paint, all that stuff throughout the house, he helped when he had to help. It was great. I just loved it. I did. I loved them all in different ways, and but I just loved it. Being a mom, and then my outlet was my golf, which I continued to 90 years old. And I always was in a league for bowling or a league for golf, so that I went. You could say you're going to do something and then you don't do it. So I always had to do something like that, So I did that. That was my little outlet. And so you got to have something, Thanksgiving, we had a big Thanksgiving. My sisters, we all lived here. Okay, and then after we got married, we all lived here with one sister who lived in Grand Rapids. And she had 4 kids. My sister one had 5. I had 5. And the one sister had 1, period. And then we had Thanksgiving together. The Grand Rapids ones would come over. So you got up to 50 of us at one time. 55, I guess, by the last November when Dad was alive, were together in the house. And we had it a lot. And my sister Nancy had it a lot. And then Carrie had it some at the end there quite a few times. So it really worked out. And then Nancy moved away. Each one got away. So,
Yeah.
but the cousins all were together. It's a great family thing, and it still is. And now I'm the oldest living one, so they pay attention to me. My sister Nancy died, and my sister Kitty died. So their families were the big ones, and so they all relate to me as practically like their mom, because they were close to them. It was very interesting. They all brought what we had to cook, like potatoes, scrape the potatoes and everything, and we did that kind of together. But yes, everybody brought something. And the person that had it had the turkey, so that's, they were responsible. Then we ended up, did we ever have 2 turkeys? Yeah, 2
I was
turkeys.
gonna say, you probably would.
Yeah, right. At the end there, we had, and I had a perfect house for everybody. So I had, when the 55, I had at the house, the tri-level, yeah. And that was the last one. It was crazy, but it's there. We all everybody takes turns doing stuff, and the kids just kind of wander around and do their thing. But most of it, you've done the silverware and all that stuff's out, the tables set, and all before they ever come. And then you have Bloody Marys or something, things like that. And then served dinner, and then all played around. And did we ever watch movies then?
I don't think we watched movies, but
Home movies.
Part of Thanksgiving was being around your mother. I mean, it was the 4 sisters, but it was Bama, because we had Thanksgiving at Bama's too, and that's really was sort of the center, I think, of it, as being Bama and the four sisters.
Right.
And then the expansion of that. And then you became Bama after Mama.
Right, after Bama, when I started.
So she became the Bama.
Then I became Bama. Bama's the name for the grandma. My mom was Bama, I'm Bama, Rachel's Bama, and that's it. Oh, right. Oh, she was always there. And my mother-in-law, till she died, she came when it was at our house, not the other kids' houses. She didn't go that. But when we had Jim's mom. You didn't have Christmas with, they were individuals. Even after the kids got married, they might come. Did you come home?
Wally too.
Wally, yeah.
We would have Christmas.
Yeah,
at Wally's.
Christmas at Wally's, that's true.
My dad's
Sister, yeah. Mom. His mom we had Christmas with. And us. Right. And she was always with us Thanksgiving at our house, but not the other kids. They had big Christmases. And then they all got married. They all finished college, all 5 kids. And so they're living in different spots, which they still today are. And so we had to get Jim, my dear sweet husband, would wrap all these. I would go and buy the stuff, and then he would wrap it. Because they had big Christmases with us, even when they were home as kids, I have to admit. So when they got away, these were for their kids. And we'd go sit in line at the train station waiting for all the packages to go. McGregor Bay was one big one, fishing. Canada, way up northern Canada, yeah. And then my best friend was Barb Travis and Chuck, and we went around as a family together. So we rented one near them in McGregor. We fished, that's what you did. It was a fishing place. And I don't know.
You took us out to a lot of trips, like to
Oh, yes, Washington.
Williamsburg.
Yeah, Washington, D.C.
West.
and,
The
The big RV out.
With the big RV.
oh yeah, the big RV. We went 4 weeks or 3 weeks. I think it was a month
I
trip.
think it was a month.
Month.
Yeah.
And all 5
all
kids,
7 of
and
us.
James was 15 years old. And we figured, well, once he's 16, he's not the athletic one, but he'll go to work or do something. And we want to do everything before we can, so he can be a problem. So that's what we did. We did that. It was fabulous. We left here and went all the way out to, did we get to Seattle? We
We got
did,
to the Grand Tetons.
huh?
The Tetons.
Tetons, as far as we went.
The ice fields.
Went to Glacier.
Glacier, that's a glacier.
Yeah, the glacier and that whole area. And we had a great time. Chuck got cut on one thing. A bottle broke or something, remember that?
Yeah.
And we had to stay at the hospital for that to get fixed. That was the only tragic thing. Oh, flat tire or something. But we had a great time. It was all the way out. And we lived in the big motorhome. That's where we all were. Well, spacious and all, fried tight. But you know, it's plenty for 5 kids in it. We did make it. Kitty was so young. What was she
Yeah,
for?
teenagers to
Yeah.
toddlers.
Yeah. Yeah.
The biggest issue was when we all took off, all the kids.
Right.
That went down to the river,
Right.
and Mom and Dad didn't know it.
We drove in and I was getting busy getting ready for stuff, and we'd just gotten there and stuff. Oh, they couldn't wait. They'd get out and run, do something. So we couldn't find them, and we're screaming our heads off, all of them. And they found, what did you find, a dead head of a cow or something you brought up. And I just remember that. I went, oh my gosh, we finally found them, but they were way down. They just ran off. And they're old enough, I knew that they had to be doing something decent, I hope. They came back and we were screaming, but we found each other. That was made up of all my high school girlfriends, and then their husbands were different from different colleges, so the ones that got married. So our husbands didn't really know each other in high school. Not everybody did, but there were a couple that we did know. And we did that once a month. We would have dinner together, and we'd each bring something, and the girl that had it was responsible for it. There were 8 girls and 8 guys, so there were 16 of us. It was quite a bit. And we looked forward to that. All of us had kids, and it was our time out to have fun. So you had cocktail hour, and then you had the dinner, and then we played games after that, and then went home. But it was a great thing to look forward to once a month. You were 6 o'clock, maybe 5 o'clock, maybe more 6 o'clock, because you wanted to get the babysitter and out of it, boy. And then we'd go to maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock. Well, that's 11 o'clock probably. That's big. But we still had to get up the next day and have the kids. We did that for years till they started moving away, and some moved to Florida, some Arizona. Some people moved different places, California. Chuck and Ruth went, and different cities. Yeah, I still ran around with the ones that were left here. Yeah.
That's fun.
But we didn't really meet for potlucks like that. I knew Mrs. Price, who ran the Welcome Wagon in Birmingham, and so she asked me if I would like to do that. And I thought, well, that sounds fun. So when I went out, I think I did that in the township, Bloomfield Township for Birmingham. And I broke my ankle at Chuck's football game, but I kept through it through the day, and then I got a cast from here down, but I still went and did my Welcome Wagon. So drove the car, and this was the left leg, not the right. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. You went to different people. They were new to town. And having lived here my whole life, I could tell them about it. And it was fun, seeing the different people and talking to them. And they did come from all different places of the country. Give them these little things saying, this store, you got to go to this store, you got to go to that store, and then different things like that. And that they're the stores that paid me and something. It wasn't a big amount of money by any means, but that's the way I got paid. Not a lot of money, but, it was something. We kind of got used to it as they went to college one by one, and then I still had Chuck and Kitty for a long time. But then I worked at Lasser High School. I started when 3 were in college at once, and then I loved that. I worked with the hearing impaired department, and I did all their paperwork for them and things to get them ready for their school day and everything. Yeah, it was an interesting job. I did that about almost 14 years. I liked working, and what happened, I got that job because somebody did, at the last minute, couldn't do it and didn't want to do it, and so that's how I got offered the job. And I said, okay, sure, I'll try it. Oh, well, the community house, yes, I did do as far as senior men for 28 years. It was at the community house, and the men had lunch there, maybe 200 of them, and maybe 180 to 200, and they'd have their lunch, and then we'd have a meeting and have a speaker. Well, I would go and help with give them the food and stuff, carry the food around to them all. There were quite a few of us, not just me, and did it for 28 years. That was a long time. That was volunteer. They were seniors, senior men. That's what it called, senior men group. And then once the COVID hit, then they quit it at the community house, so then they went and found another place. Every week. One of my friends said, hey, come on and try it, so I did it, just lunchtime. Yeah, it was just a weekly thing. You kids weren't around when I did that, I don't think. No, that's after. And Jim went himself, my husband. He was senior man. Well, just to do something different than my playing golf or by doing other things, yes, volunteer work. It just says churches volunteer. That's all volunteer work. altar guild and teaching and doing things like that. I didn't teach in later years. I taught when the kids were small. Just a couple of years. I didn't big on that. Big on altar guild and anything else in the church that they needed. We did different things, so. St. James was where we did it, and then we moved out to St. Stephen's when we moved out to the township. And then we worked there, went to that church, Nancy Hanson. A few other ones went with us. And that was fun, but the minister wasn't good. So he had a problem. So everybody left. And the church is going now, it's fine. But we went back to the church, St. James, where I really wanted to do. And now Jim's buried at St. James in the columbarium, where I'll go. I always went to church, yes. I've always done that. I've been very close. I was raised in St. James, so, yeah. As far as I know, today's world, I don't know what they do as far as church, but I went, and I continued, and Jim went too. Now, when the kids were growing up, I did more than just Jim going, but then later on, then he came in, and we always went to church every Sunday. Oh, I love that. Wish they lived closer. I have to say that. It's hard because I love it when I'm with them, but I don't get to see them that much. I got to see them more when Jim was alive because then we'd travel back. But right lately, the way it is now, I don't get to see him that much. But with FaceTime, I get to see everything going on now, and that I really love, So I'm big on FaceTime with all of them. And I would say I don't know what I'd do without that. Yeah. So they all live, 2 in Chicago, and 1 in Minnesota, and 1 in Massachusetts. I'll travel around. Well, it was very exciting, but I fell there at Minnesota when I was there for Christmas because Jim had died just that year in May. And so I went there at Christmas time, and I fell the day before, 2 days before, I don't forget which. But anyway, I just was trying to reach something, and I kept going to help somebody that dropped something, and I kept going across the floor and hit the chair on my shoulder and wrecked it. So I knew right then I had done something. So I was there 2 months at Rachel's house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a
Just a
great.
clarification, that's the first great-grandchild. The first grandchild was still Rachel's, but it was Derek.
And Derek is my first grandchild. And then Arlie. I couldn't wait to get out there and, first place, when he was born, he was 10 pounds something. And I was at work at Lasser High School with a hearing impaired. So I wrote on a chalkboard about it. And that's, I was working then. So I was so excited. So I had to put all that on a chalkboard for the kids there. And that was exciting. But then I went out there and helped with them. I loved that part. The bathing and just being with him and holding him, feeding him, except she nursed. Did you nurse? Yeah, I think you did for a while. Yeah. Well, we just did outside stuff probably, on the playground or something like that with them when they came. Yes, I did take Derek and Arlie. They would fly here. And one time, and then the next year, Arlie could fly here. And then I would take him for a week or 2. Yeah, with Jim, my husband. And they loved it when they came. I think they remember it more because they were older, They loved playing down in Poppy's playroom. No, not playroom, but his workroom. And Poppy was always making something, so they loved that, especially Derek. And I think Arlie might remember that, too. Well, all the kids were with him. I mean, John had kids and, grandkids. Mm-hmm. So I guess they're great grandkids, yeah. That's true.
You're a great grandkid.
Yeah, I got to think. Clay, it's different when you have to start thinking different ones, yeah. It's just a natural thing for me, When I see them, I love them, But we did more probably than the great-grandkids. I don't see much. That's more than because of, being distant-wise. Now I can't really travel with them or do anything. I like going over and visiting. I went to different houses, Well, and then I'd go on golfing weekends, not weekends. Yeah, well, it'd be a long weekend maybe. 5 days, 4 days with 3 other ladies. And we did that for almost 12 to 13 years. 13 years, I think it was 13 or 14. And that was fun, the getaway. And then I did golfing like that with Jim. And we went on with one of our best friends, Chuck and Barbara. And we went on a golfing trip down south. We go different places. So I think golf was a big thing in my life. And then bowling was the same way. That we'd go 4 or 5 days on the golf for just me with the ladies. Then we'd play bridge after. I was a big bridge player. Oh, and I do bridge a lot. I was in bridge leagues too. Being outside and just a competition. I just love it all. That part. It's really good. It was good for me. I won a lot. In those leagues. Yeah, I won a lot of prizes that way. No, sterling silver, something like that. Or a medal, a little thing. But no money. And then with couples, and then I go up north with Jim, and we'd go up into a couple's house. And we stayed there for a while. Played golf up there. And yeah, off and on.
Are you a competitive person?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I like it, but I don't care if I lose. It's not the end of the world, but I like to win. Well, anybody likes to win, We liked our trips up to McGregor Bay fishing. I think about the best of anything. And then Jim and I did trips out to Seattle and all the way down the coast of California and all that way down and back home. We took trips together like that many times. We've been all over, yeah, all the states, probably. And then we went to Minnesota or someplace to travel and over to see James. And John's the only one around here. He's in Ann Arbor. So the rest of the kids you went to visit. Well, I like to be busy. I do like to read, but I do that more at night. Yeah. I like people. Yeah. And kids and friends. I'd say the sorority did that for me. And back when in high school. Mm-hmm. Then I would telephone people, okay, let's do this or that. So I was a big one on that. So, yeah, I did garden. And first, James had a sandbox. The kids did. Huge box of sand, period. Then that was the end of that. And so then we turned that into a vegetable garden. And I had fun doing that for quite a few years. And then turned that into a flower garden after that. And it's still there. It's a flower garden. Oh, tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini. That always became big. Too big to eat. That's for bread or something. Green beans. I think that may be about it. Carrots. We tried carrots once in the ground, but probably more me, yeah. Mm-hmm. And Jim helped. He helped build the things. I don't remember you kids doing much of that. I don't think so. They were all older at that point. Yeah, it did grow flowers outside, yeah. And then when Jim was on oxygen 12 years, so I had to do a lot more things, and so I got the gardener across the street to help me. And she ended up doing my gardening when I couldn't get down on my knees and get back up again. I volunteered Altar Guild many years. I did teaching when I first had the kids, and they were real young, and then I teach one of the classes. And anytime they had a big thing, like a show or something they needed, I was there to help with that. I was on Altar Guild, but besides that one, I was on a guild period, like St. Martha's Guild and those. So I was active in the church for a lot of years, yeah. Well, yeah, it's across the street from where I am, Baldwin House in Birmingham. But I'm doing now it on iPad, on my iPad, and they have it now, so you can see it that way.
Watch it on the iPad.
Yeah, so I do now instead of going. But it's not the same since COVID. Yeah, and my friends aren't there. Half of them, 3/4 of them, they've left. So or died.
Yeah.
You know, so makes a difference. Oh, I have a great belief. Yeah, I really do. Anything goes wrong, I talk to them,
Yeah.
which is a good thing. Grandmama and my mom, she taught at this same church I go to. She was a teacher there for quite a few years. But Grandmama was too one of my people I believe in. Well, our first one was going to Great Britain and taking a boat that would sleep 6 of us. There were 6, 2 friends, then they had 2 friends, and then ourselves. And we all got along really well. And so we rented what do you call it?
Barge.
A barge. And all of us slept on the barge. We ran our own barge. Now, that's different. We had to go up and down locks. Yeah, the locks. That's not easy, and we had 23 of them to do in our trip. But it was so fast. Down the Oxford. Oxford? Oh, that's not it. The river. I want to say Oxford. But anyway, Oxford's where we were. And then we went down the river, Thames River.
Right.
And that's what it is. All through England, and it was just fabulous. And it was fun. And then we came back. And then we wanted to stay 3 more weeks. That was only 1 week we did with them. So then the rest of the time, Jim and I went by ourselves. And so they brought us our rental car. And the first day we had it, right after we had all dropped off, said goodbye to each other, we got a rental car the next day. And we were going to go over to Churchill's place. And so Jim said, it was starting to rain. He said, why don't you just start now, and I'll tell you what to do. So he said, well, you start out, and then I'll start, I'll drive after. So that's fine. He never drove. I did all of it. And so here we are. I'm on the wrong side of the road. That's new. Never been here before. Never seen one of these roundabouts. It was not a thing, but I love to drive. So, and I'd driven at 14, so years old. That's when I got my ticket. my license. So anyway, so that started it. So he was a great person to tell me, here, okay, blah, 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 blah. And we did it. We finished for 3 weeks like that. And we went to bed and breakfast all the time. So that was fun. No hotels, all bed and breakfast. One time we're looking at this one store with a bed and breakfast on it, and this guy walked up and he said, well, I've got a bed and breakfast. Would you like to try? So we went to his place. He had a little child, and told the wife, and we had the best time there. That was a fun time. So all the different bed and breakfast, but we did have it usually placed ahead of time.
Gotcha.
But in that one, we didn't. So.
Wow.
But not easy, naturally, because I had fallen, and that week before, before I moved out, 3 weeks before, really, I'd fallen and hurt my shoulder, and so I had to go to a home, and I said, okay, kids, this is it. After I broke, so I have 4 pieces of metal in me from different falls, and so I'm used to them. But this one, I thought, this is it, because I did it at 95 or so, anyway, whenever it was, 96, yeah, that's when I did it.
Gotcha.
So that's why I did it. So I said, it's time. So I went to this place I'm at, Baldwin House, which wasn't a good move as far as right now. So they want to make it into a hotel and not be an old people's place. So now, who knows what's going to happen? I'm going to get back and find out more. But, well, it was sad, and I couldn't navigate it. John, my son, is in Arbor. He had to do so much of that stuff, you know, to help me along. And I'm in Evergreen, you know, a place where you have to go when you break your shoulder and get rehab and so on. So it wasn't, and then he had to move all the house stuff into there. Then they had to put the house, then all the kids came and did what they had to do. I mean, that's where the family had to get together and do it, and they did it. So I have to say I got a great family. I'm blessed with one. Wasn't easy in my brain. Well, this is the next step. You know, you get this and this and this, and it's not easy. And I think it was harder on the kids even because I had to do something at that point. I couldn't live alone, I didn't think, you know. So, and I'd hated for them to have to go through all they had to go through, but they have to go through it again when I have to go. So, you know, it's okay, but as I said, it's changing. So, because they've taken food away, starting June 1st, I won't have any food there. And you pay $25 or something a day and for one meal, and then you get a fixed breakfast. And well, at this stage of the game, I didn't want to do all that. That's why I went there, you know. And then they changed that, and they knew it a year ahead of time. That's what made me mad, you know. They didn't say anything because they could have told John that when I wasn't even there involved. Yeah, I made some friends right away, played games. I mean, you know, Rummy Cube and a few games that I liked. They didn't have bridge. Nobody played bridge. And things like that. But it's a different living. It's not the same as having your family around. I'm enjoying this lots. Just being here with my kids. I drove at 96, though.
Oh, up until...
Yeah, till I had the fall, 96.
Wow.
Yeah, I was driving then. Yeah, I feel very comfortable. I think I could get back by a wheel now, but I wouldn't want to, just from the standpoint I know I shouldn't. I don't know, I just enjoy driving. I always did. Drove Jim around with his oxygen, you know, which is great. He always wanted me to drive anyway.
Drove all of us around.
I get up in the morning. It's have breakfast, which I fix myself, or if they've got oatmeal there, I could get that, but I don't do it that much. And they usually have one little thing, maybe for the day. They have current events, or they have a game that they might play or something. And I play Rummy Cube at night, usually every night. Not every. Now I've changed it because I don't like that every night. I like things at home. I like to watch the news once in a while, or watch a game on there. I don't like TV that much either, so I read, but I don't have any program I really watch. But I get along, and the friends I met there, they're nice, and it's not the same as my friends I had for so many years. I go 3 days a week.
Where?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at the place.
And what do you do?
And we do exercises for 45 minutes, sitting in a chair. Though the last one's standing up and then doing. But it's 45 minutes of exercise.
I heard that you're sometimes taking over those classes.
I did a couple times, yeah, but then that's only when she can't do it. She has to drive somebody someplace there.
And then they ask you to do it or what?
Yeah, and I did it with Charlene. The two of us would do it together. And I said, Charlene, you help. So, but I can do it. I'm probably more active than any of them in the class, you know, as far as doing all the things right. They might say put your arm up like this, or they might go, you know, because they can't really do it, so.
She's busier than we are.
Yeah.
She does reading group, a couple bingo and current events and exercise and
Yeah, I have to make an appointment to see
yeah,
her.
yeah, she's busier than we are.
Yep. I like to be busy. But I like to sit too. But I'm slow at doing everything now. I mean, they're slower than I was, so that's life. But I love my life, so I've had a good life. Well, it starts way back, even before I think my great-great-grandma. But it started with Rachel Line, Line. Then the name continued to with the gold wedding band with RL on it. And that is passed down to each Rachel L. So because it had to be Rachel Line first, and I thought, well, it sounds kind of like Rachel Lynn. So when I started, I named her Rachel Lynn, which is kind of like Line, and we called her Lynn because my mom was Rachel Louise, I was Rachel Louise, and I thought, oh, well, Louise, we'll do this. So we started that. Well, when she went to college, Rachel went to college, they started calling her Rachel, not Lynn. She came back with the name Rachel all the time. So then finally, it took me a long time. It took me Rachel Lynn, calling her that, and then Rachel Lynn. So then she was Rachel. Then she had a Rachel. It's always the first daughter. But my mom didn't do that. See, Nancy was the first, but I was the first with my dad. So that's why it went back to that. And then she had Rachel, Arlie was Rachel Lee, Leigh. And so Arlie. So that's where that came in. And so she stuck with Arlie. I mean, that's what she's called. So, and then her Arlie had Rachel. Don't tell me now. Rachel. Lila. Rachel Lila, and so Lila is now it. So that's a great one. So then whatever she does. Anyway, this gold wedding band goes down. It's in a little blue velvet box, and when I die, she gets it, and when she dies, it goes down when you die. Give it off. So my mother. So that's what my mom told me. So this is how it's been. I love it, And I was the only Rachel in our high school. And it was from 7th to 12th grade. There wasn't another Rachel in there. Yeah, they were strong. I will say that, I think, yeah. It's a happy family. I mean, it's just not me. It's my other sisters and their kids and, everybody else. So it's all the way through, which is good. Good background. I just love every day. I do something. You always got something to look forward to. Usually, I'd like to. And I've always enjoyed people, and I've always enjoyed life, and as I said, and I love trips, but I can't do them anymore. But a trip over here has been fabulous at Chuck's place. So this weekend I really enjoyed so much. It's special. We just had the birthday here, the party, and we just all were together, playing games together and just chatting and laughing. We love to laugh. I love to laugh. So, and then John's got all the movie stuff he does so for us. He takes care of our genealogy. James and John do, which is good. A negative person. Oh, that I don't like to be with. That's not fun. There are a lot of negative people in this group. Wherever you go, you got negative people. I like them, but you don't want to follow with them all the time. That's not good. That's not making you happy, So, which is too bad. That's me, though. And you get sad times. It's not always gloating. You get your times that you're lonely. You get times with this or that. But then you just kind of accept it. I guess I got a great belief in the Lord. So, I think a lot of it's faith.
I would say, too, that she just, or that you, Mom, always are, whenever there's a challenging situation, you just go, okay, well, if that's what I have to deal with, I will get through it. I mean, just always,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull your sleeves up and engage. You do that all the time.
It is what it is. I'll put it that way.
That's what she always says.
It is what it is. And life's been wonderful for me, but I can't say for everybody, but I feel very fortunate that I've had a good life. And I hope to continue. There's not a lot to look forward to. scene the family was looking forward to. You know, that kind of thing. Really. That I like, yeah. But, you know, at this age, someday when he comes for me, that's it. I felt fortunate, but Grandma Emma was a 101, so I think of her, and she's one of my ideal people. But, yeah, I think I feel very fortunate, to be very honest, because there are a lot of people that wouldn't be like this. No. And so I accept that. Remember me. And they'll go on with their own lives. And hopefully they're all going to be great. There are such great kids and great grandkids and great everything. I enjoy them all. And they enjoy life too. So I'm hoping they will have good lives.